Hello and welcome to the English 2 Unit 5 Curriculum Preview video. I'm Chris Drury, your guide on this wondrous adventure through drama and poetry. First, let's look at poetry. Here we have the standards tested with poetry. Of course, we're going to understand and make inferences and draw a conclusion about poetry structure and elements, but I think you'll detect a theme with this unit. Theme, and also figurative language. Poetry has been tested 4 times over the years of the STAR test, with the last year being the most recent test. So how do we go about teaching poetry analysis? The most traditional way is through TPCast, where we break poetry down by looking at the title, paraphrasing the whole poem, looking at the connotations in the poem, as well as the poet's attitude or tone. A key factor that I think is always worth looking at is shift. Whether you do TPCast or not, I've always found that focusing on the shift in poems helps the students decode the poem. The shift almost always points directly to the theme. And then we go back to the title because students frequently ignore the title. And now that we're getting closer to a theme or a deeper meaning, the title can give us big hints or even reveal a new meaning as we deeply analyze the poem. Then we wrap up our analysis by coming to a conclusion about the theme. Another way is to pick a poem that has a strong technique in it, where the poet does something very well, like using rhyme scheme or diction or syntax or structure. When you find a poem like that, it's a good idea to have students do a close reading just for that technique. They can even mimic it in their own writing by taking a mentor text approach and doing a quick write poem using the same technique right away. This will reinforce their learning and make them think like writers, which will force deep analysis. Using multiple poems will give them multiple touches and multiple approaches and a broad view of poetry with depth. Poetry can even be done as a writer's notebook warm-up. After projecting any poem that you choose on the board, you can give students 10 to 12 minutes to write and reflect about the poem using any of the techniques listed here. This will give students multiple touches with many poems. Picking poems with strong themes and figurative language and imagery can yield value across genres. You'll notice here that I put down that poetry is kind of weird. I mean that in the most positive way. Poetry is very unique, and it's a kind of writing that our students don't always do well with. Giving them multiple touches with it, letting them try to write it, letting them have a creative response to it may help them understand it better. As you wrap up your poetry lessons, you might find students wanting to share their own poetry with you. Teenage poetry can often lead to drama, which is conveniently our next topic. Here we can see the standards associated with drama. In the standards, we have a focus on archetypes and mythological elements, almost as if they were written for Julius Caesar and Antigone in mind. Those are, of course, the canonical dramas associated with sophomore literature class. I know that in the textbook, those are your 2 big dramas, and they may be the only ones you have to work with. They're canon for a reason. Our students may not always love them. I would probably pick Antigone on this first pass because the language is easier for them to grasp, but there are things they can relate to, and these are strong pieces. You could always just take an act or a scene or 2 and analyze that. If you have something more relevant to their lives that's a drama, go ahead and pick it. And as you were probably aware, drama has never been tested on the English 2 EOC. That doesn't mean they can't put one in this year, but besides teaching the drama standards, plays offer a unique opportunity. We can look at the fiction text through a different lens. Drama is usually divided more clearly into scenes, so students can get a clearer picture of the isolated scene's impact on the larger aspect of the fiction text. So this right here, drama helps. Additionally, looking at characters can be clearer as well, with dialogue offering a point of view different than fiction. While you can still get an omniscient point of view, the character speech and stage directions associated with it gives insight more easily into their moral dilemmas. Both Antigone and Julius Caesar let you take a good look at why Mark Antony or Antigone, the protagonists, feel and act the way they do, and at why Brutus and Creon feel and act the way they do, and they're the protagonists. They all have and are acting around similar moral dilemmas, and those moral dilemmas are tied to theme. It may even be worth finding a short piece of fiction and a dramatization of that fiction, so you get that standard where how fiction's been turned into a play or a movie or anything like that, and take apart those pieces there too, so that they can start to see, where do I find it in fiction and where do I find it in drama. As you consider the poetry pieces of this unit, you might look for themes that tie into these plays and hit those thematic pieces, and as always, look for ways to analyze figurative language in the drama. If you want to work around back to persuasion because you'd like to get more practice with persuasive writing techniques, taking apart key monologues from both plays for ethos, pathos, and logos, or other persuasive techniques can be extremely valuable. In the writing unit, I'll even discuss some possible writing pieces you could do around that. I hope I've sparked some ideas for you here, and that you get a chance to enjoy some poetic drama with your students this 6 weeks.